You're born into the cold, dark waters of the ocean. Maybe it's the Pacific, somewhere off the coast of Alaska, where the waters are icy and the currents unforgiving. Or maybe it's in the North Atlantic, where the chill bites at your skin from the moment you take your first breath. The ocean isn't warm and welcoming. There's no cozy nest lined with soft fur. No protective den where you can snuggle up for safety. Nah, your crib is the open sea. Vast, deep, and full of things you don't even have words for yet. It's wet, wild, and a little bit terrifying, even for a creature as tough as an orca. You barely even realize you're alive before you're swimming, instinctively flapping your tiny flippers as the water rushes past you. Your eyes are still adjusting, blinking through the blurry shadows of the ocean. But the first thing you notice as you emerge into this new world is that you're not alone, not even close. You've got a whole team around you. Your mom, your dad, your uncles, aunts, and cousins. You're surrounded by a pod that's already been through this crazy ocean life for years. They're experienced, battle-tested, and ready to move. And guess what? You're not getting any special treatment just because you're fresh out of the womb. The ocean doesn't care that you've only just made your grand entrance. The moment you're born, it's clear. This life is not for the faint of heart. You've got to keep up, or you'll be left behind. And forget about being coddled. Orcas don't do taking it easy. You might be an adorable little baby orca in your mom's eyes, but to the rest of the pod, you're just another body in the water, an extra set of fins, a new face to keep track of, and no one's slowing down for you. There's no peaceful float here. You don't get to ease into things. From the second you break the surface, you're thrust into survival mode. You don't even have the luxury of learning to crawl before you walk. The ocean's not a daycare. Your pod's already got a rhythm, fast, powerful, and relentless, and you've got to fit in, whether you're ready or not. Your mom is nearby, but don't expect her to stop and play the doting role. Sure, she'll give you some space, maybe nudge you along, but her job is to keep the pod together, to navigate these cold, treacherous waters. She's constantly on the move, steering the pod to the next hunting grounds, making sure everyone's accounted for. She's not just thinking about you, she's thinking about the group's survival. In the ocean, you don't get to be the center of attention for long. The moment you're born, you're one mouth to feed, one body to keep alive, and that's not a free ride. You'd think your dad might step up and give you a break. He's your father, right? But no, orca dads don't sit around pulling double duty as babysitters. They've got their own roles to play in the pod's hierarchy, and survival doesn't leave room for sentiment. Sure, he might be nearby, checking you out with that big black and white body of his, but his primary job is making sure the pod stays together, that the pack sticks to its hunting route, and that any danger from outside is kept at bay. In orca world, family might mean everything, but survival means even more. The other pod members? They're not much help either. Sure, they might be friendly, maybe even curious about the newest member of the family, but don't think they're going to slow their pace for you. There's no time for leisurely bonding sessions. You're on your own, figuring it out with each stroke of your tail. You might get a little help here and there, maybe from a sibling or an older relative, but don't count on it. Everyone's busy. Everyone's focused on the task at hand. You're in this for yourself, even if it feels like you're surrounded by family. The first thing you learn? The ocean's a fast place. Like, blink and you miss it fast. The moment you're born, you're expected to swim. And if you can't keep up, you're out of luck. It's not like in the movies where you get to hang out with your mom and watch the world go by. The pod moves in unison, constantly circling, constantly on the go, navigating dangerous waters, searching for food, scanning for predators. The adults, they're powerful, sleek, and incredibly fast. They've been swimming these waters for years, honing their skills, building their strength. They're not waiting around for you to catch up. And trust me, if you fall behind, that's when things get scary. Orcas are top predators, but even top predators have to stay sharp. There's no room for slacking off. Even a baby orca, fresh out of the womb, can't afford to slow down. You don't get to play the baby card forever. You're born into a harsh reality where every stroke matters. You've got to swim with the pod, at least if you want to survive. And the weird part? You start to realize that this isn't just about keeping up in terms of swimming. It's about something bigger. It's about understanding how to fit into the pod, how to communicate with each member, how to make yourself valuable. Orcas are social creatures, but that social structure, it's not a simple thing. You're not just floating along with the current. The dynamics are complex, and you're a new player in a very old game. Your mom, as much as she loves you, doesn't have time for every little need of yours. She's got to keep the group together, keep everyone focused, keep everyone hunting. When she's not nursing you, she's hunting for the whole pod. And when it's time to move to the next location, it's all hands on deck. It's your job to stay close, to keep up, and to do whatever you can to contribute to the group's survival. There's no sick day in the Orca world. You can't just tap out because you're tired. You've got to keep going. By the time your eyes are open, you'll already understand the stakes. It's clear from the start. This is no cushy, pampered existence. The ocean doesn't give you a break. No time for baby steps. You've got to be tough right out of the gate. The moment you're born, you've got to hit the water running, or swimming more like it. And trust me, the faster you can keep up, the better off you'll be. There's no room for weaklings in an orca pod. From the second you're born, it's all about survival, speed, and sticking with the group. Welcome to the harsh, fast-paced world of the ocean. Okay, so you're an orca, and that means you're at the top of the food chain, right? You get to eat what you want, hunt what you want, right? Wrong. There's no buffet line here. The ocean's full of predators and prey, and if you're not actively hunting, you're not eating. And that's a problem when you're a baby orca. At first, all you want to do is nurse from your mom. But the milk, it's thick, almost like a milkshake. And if you thought breastfeeding was supposed to be easy, think again. The milk comes out in huge spurts, and you've got to be quick if you want to get any. The other pod members are nursing too, and sometimes they don't leave much for the little ones. The competition starts early. As you grow, the milk becomes less satisfying, and now you're expected to start eating real food. Welcome to the orca version of a meal plan. Your pod hunts together. That's the deal. You don't get to pick your meals. Your mom? She's going after seals, fish, and occasionally a whale calf, but the food's not always right there. It can take hours to find a meal. Hours. You'd better get used to swimming your tail off because your next meal is always just out of reach. And when you do get that meal, don't think it's easy. You've got to work for it, often in teams of other orcas, coordinating your movements, taking down giant prey like a well-oiled machine. It's all about teamwork, strategy, and survival. But when you're just a baby, you're not exactly a valuable member of the team. The adults are the ones doing the heavy lifting, while you're trying to figure out how not to get lost or sucked into the current. So you're swimming along, cruising through the ocean like you're finally starting to get the hang of this whole orca thing. You've got your pod around you, you know your role, and you're starting to learn the rhythms of the hunt. Things are looking up. You might even think, hey, this isn't so bad. I've got the whole ocean at my fins and nothing's gonna stop me now. Well, buckle up, because you're about to find out that the water you thought was safe is a lot more dangerous than you imagined. You see, life as an orca isn't all smooth sailing. Sure, you're born at the top of the food chain, with few creatures in the ocean willing to take you on. But that doesn't mean you're untouchable. In fact, the ocean's a cutthroat place, and the biggest threats to your survival? They might be swimming right alongside you. Spoiler alert. It's not sharks, giant squids, or any of those other classic ocean predators that you've been warned about. No, the real danger lurking in the deep comes from somewhere a lot more familiar. Your own family. Yep, you heard that right. Your own siblings, the very ones who were born with you, raised by the same pod, swimming through the same currents. Those are the ones you've got to watch out for. While you're still figuring out how to perfect your hunting skills and keep up with the pod, your brothers and sisters are already out there becoming your direct competition. They're after the same food, the same space, and the same status within the pod. And in the world of orcas, where resources are limited and survival is a constant battle, competition doesn't exactly come with a play nice rule. You see, orcas don't just swim in peaceful harmony with each other. There's a hierarchy, an unspoken system of rank and respect that governs everything. The older, more experienced members of the pod take the lead, and the younger ones, like you, are expected to fall in line. But here's the catch. As you grow, the social dynamics within the pod start to shift. The more dominant siblings will assert themselves, trying to carve out their own position in the pecking order. The oldest and strongest go for the best hunting spots, the prime feeding areas, and of course, the best mates. And if you're not careful, you'll find yourself pushed to the edges, struggling to keep up. And let's not forget the silent but ever-present pressure to prove yourself. Orcas are social animals, and reputation is everything. The moment you fail to keep up with the pod, the moment you miss a hunting opportunity or mess up during a coordinated hunt, it's not just a mistake. It's a mark on your reputation. You're going to hear about it. You'll feel the sting of failure the next time you try to take charge or show off your skills. Orcas don't let you forget your failures. That one bad hunt, that time you couldn't keep pace with the group, it's like a scar that follows you. No one's going to let you live it down. Now, this might seem like a lot of internal drama for a young orca to deal with, but it's not just about getting the stink eye from your siblings. The whole pod's watching you, too. They're assessing your strength, your hunting ability, your endurance. Orcas don't just follow anyone. If you want to rise in the ranks, you've got to show your worth at every turn. The older, more dominant orcas, they've been at this game for years, and they're not going to be impressed by anything less than perfection. So if you mess up once, expect to be reminded of it every time the pod hits the water for another hunt. And you might think that all this sibling rivalry and social stress is just a rite of passage. It'll get better once I grow older, you might tell yourself. But nope, this is your life now. Welcome to the constant game of keep up. Orcas are fierce competitors, and the older you get, the more you'll feel the pressure to prove you belong in the pod. No one's going to hand you a free pass just because you're cute and young. Nope, you've got to fight for your place, and that means navigating the dangerous waters of sibling competition and the unforgiving gaze of your podmates. But here's the kicker. This constant tension isn't just a part of growing up, it's a part of life. Orcas are born into a world where survival depends not only on hunting skills, but on social status, reputation, and the ability to stay ahead of the pack. So as you learn to swim faster, hunt smarter, and claim your place in the pod, remember one thing: you've got to watch your back. Because in the ocean, the biggest threats aren't always the ones chasing you from behind, they're the ones swimming right beside you. So, you're an orca now. You've spent your early days floundering around in the ocean, trying to figure out how to swim, how to hunt, how to blend in with the pod. You've got the basics down: how to swim in formation, how to communicate, how to follow the scent trails that lead to food. Things are starting to click. The cold, open water is no longer as terrifying as it once was. You've learned to ride the currents, keep up with the pod, and even make a few moves on your own when it comes to hunting. Life's starting to feel like it might actually make sense, like maybe you've got a handle on this whole survival thing. But here's the kicker. Just when you think you're starting to get the hang of things, that's when it all changes. The ocean's not a place where you get to settle into a routine for too long. No, things are always shifting, always moving, always evolving. And if you don't stay sharp, you'll get left behind. So now you've mastered the art of keeping up with the pod, but there's this little nagging feeling creeping in. Maybe it's time to move on. Maybe it's time to stretch your fins and do your own thing. But hold on, you can't just leave the pod like some rebellious teenager. Orcas don't work like that. You don't just wake up one day, decide you're bored, and go find a new group to hang with. Nope, that's not how this works. Orcas are social creatures, and there's a whole lot of family drama and complex social hierarchy that comes with being part of a pod. It's a lot like trying to leave a high school clique, but on a much bigger scale and with way more at stake. At some point, you'll start seeing other pods moving through the water, swimming by with their own families. Maybe you'll catch a glimpse of their sleek bodies cutting through the ocean, or maybe you'll hear them communicating in their own special dialect. You'll see how their dynamics work, how they move together, and you might start thinking, hey, maybe I should join them. This pod could be a better fit for me. After all, the ocean is a huge, endless place. There are always other pods, other territories, other groups of orcas. The world's big, and maybe you're not getting what you need where you are. But here's the thing, moving from one pod to another, it's not just some casual decision you can make on a whim. It's a big deal. Orcas are territorial. And when you step into another pod's territory, you're not just being friendly. You're challenging their space, their resources, and their power. That's a potential recipe for conflict. And this conflict, it's not a friendly little tussle. It's a full-on battle for dominance, for territory, for food, for respect. There's no please or thank you when it comes to Orca turf wars. You see, every pod has its own rhythm, its own territory that it claims as its own. Orcas are fiercely protective of what they've got. They rely on their space, their hunting grounds, to survive. Their territory isn't just a place, it's the place. And if you think you're just going to waltz into someone else's domain without consequences, you've got another thing coming. Orcas fight for what's theirs, and the stakes are high. Every fight is a fight for survival. And believe me, if you're not ready for it, you could end up regretting that decision to try something new. But even beyond the physical conflict, there's a social cost to consider. Orcas are about family, and leaving your pod isn't just a personal choice, it's a social statement. It's like announcing to the whole ocean, I don't fit here anymore, and that doesn't go over well. Pods are tight-knit groups, and there's a lot of pressure to conform, to maintain the family bond. If you leave, you're not just turning your back on your immediate family. You're breaking a social contract that's been around for generations. The trust, the cooperation, the shared responsibility that keeps the pod together, it all starts to unravel when someone drops out. There's a lot of social tension tied to leaving, and if you do, you'll have to face the fact that you might be cutting yourself off from everything you know, everything you've ever known. So now you're stuck in a bit of a bind. You want to be independent, you want to explore, you want to carve out your own space in the vast ocean. But making that move comes with huge risks. The more you think about it, the more complicated it all gets. You can't just leave your pod like it's no big deal. It's a balancing act between your own desires and the realities of the ocean's social structure. You're beginning to realize the ocean doesn't hand out freedom without a price. You start to notice more subtle shifts in the pod dynamics too. The older, more experienced members are still calling the shots, but there's a certain tension in the air. The younger orcas, the ones around your age, might be testing the waters, challenging the old guard. It's like watching the next generation of orcas start to get ready to take the reins. Maybe you're starting to wonder if you're meant to be part of that next wave. You want more responsibility, more freedom to make your own decisions, but the truth is, it's not just about swimming faster or hunting smarter. It's about knowing when to challenge the status quo and when to fall in line. And that's when the real game begins. The game of keeping up. Because as soon as you start thinking you've mastered this whole being an orca thing, the rules change again. You've got to keep pushing yourself, stay ahead of the pack, or risk being left in the dust. The ocean's a place where only the strongest survive, and the moment you stop keeping up with the rest of the pod is the moment you start falling behind. The next generation's always coming up behind you, pushing for their own place, their own piece of the ocean. So you've got to stay sharp, stay ready, and keep moving forward, no matter how tough it gets. You'll start to realize that this game of keep up doesn't just apply to the pod or your territory. It's a game you'll play with the entire ocean. Orcas don't get to take breaks. Whether it's from pod to pod, from hunting grounds to hunting grounds, or from one challenge to the next, the game of survival is relentless. The moment you stop swimming forward, you start to lose ground. And if you lose enough ground, it's not just a territory you're fighting for, it's your place in the world itself. So what do? Do you try to carve out a new life for yourself, testing the waters of new pods and new territories, or do you stay put, playing your part in the family, making your move when the time is right? Either way, the game never ends, because being an orca means understanding that the second you stop moving forward is the second you stop surviving. Keep up or get left behind. That's the only rule that really matters. So now you've made it to adulthood. You've got your own skills, your own hunting territory, and your reputation is starting to form. But guess what? It's not all sunshine and rainbows out there. Orcas live a long time, sometimes up to 90 years. But just because you've hit adulthood doesn't mean you're done with the drama. Being an adult orca means constantly battling for status within your pod. And if you're male, forget about it. The competition's brutal. You're sizing up other males in a constant game of dominance. Prove your strength, show your hunting ability, and maybe, just maybe, you'll earn the right to mate. But if you're a female orca, things aren't exactly easier. You're expected to pull your weight, raise calves, and keep up with the demands of the pod. No breaks. But the hardest part? The loneliness? Orcas are social creatures, but as you get older, you start seeing how the group changes. Some members die, others leave, and you're left trying to figure out what it means to keep surviving. When you're young, you've got your pod. But as you age, you'll find yourself surrounded by fewer and fewer individuals, and sometimes you'll have to face the harsh reality of what it means to survive alone. Here's the kicker. You've survived, you've hunted, you've fought, and now it's time for the inevitable. Orcas live a long time, but nothing lasts forever. As you get older, the hunt becomes harder. Your body doesn't respond as quickly as it used to. Your strength wanes, and worst of all, you start losing your position within the pod. The young ones, the eager ones, they start eyeing your territory, your food, your mates, and suddenly, you're the old one, the one everyone's trying to push out. You might put up a fight, but you can only do so much when age catches up to you. You know that the cycle's about to start all over again, but this time, it's not you. You've made your mark, and now it's time for someone else to take over. And as you fade into the background of the pod, you realize something. Being born an orca was never about playing the game. It was about surviving it. And in the end, the ocean moves on, as cold and as vast as it ever was.